no such thing as a market. All the farmers in the area would get all their cattle that they were going to sell and bring them into Ballybrickin. So they'd be all standing loose on Ballybrickin, like big herds of cattle, and creels, carts with pigs and bonhams and all sorts of animals. And you could wander around and look at the whole Ballybrickin. Be packed with people buying and selling cattle. And now, I suppose a cow was about that height, and I was probably not. I wouldn't have been that height when I was 7 or 8. So you'd be really looking up at the cows. And what I remember about the cows is that the cows were all, at the end of the mark. The cows would be all, there'd be cow crap every place, because the cows would be standing around all day waiting to be bought and sold, and they were so nervous, I suppose, or maybe it was just natural. They'd stand around and literally. And the fact that a cow's bum was about that height off the ground meant that at the end of the day, every shop in Ballybrickin, every building in Ballybrickin had a mark of cow shite on it up to that level. You can imagine. So, and it was the job then of the men in the corporation that come along, and they'd hose it all down, and this big river of cow dung would run down the glen. Exactly. Down the glen. So, anyhow, and up on Ballybrickin, which was another thing that was very common up on the hill, was a big trough, a horse trough. Because, as I said, everything around town was delivered by horse and cars. And some people did have cars and vans and trucks, but most of them were delivered on a big flat truck with a big massive horse. I don't know what kind, I think they call it a Shire horse. A really big heavy horse. And the horses would have to stop in places all over town because there were troughs full of water the horses would have to drink. And we used to look at these horses. They were immense horses. We were that size. The horse looked about that size. But it was tremendous to see the horse when the man would stop with the horse. And the horse would feed a big nose bag on the horse, and the horse would be eating. And a lot of the horses were mares, female horses, and they'd pee. I always remember looking with interest at these horses. But when the horse would pee, it'd be like the tide. The horse you'd be looking at it wouldn't be just a short pee, it'd be like a river. And you'd be looking at where is it all? Was the horse? This was just, the horse was an amazing thing. When you'd always look at me to see to see the horses peeing. This was a really big thing anyway. So when I was 4 in 1951, I went to Mount Sion. And Mount Sion, you all know where Mount Sion is. It's up in Barrett Street, and the school was packed at the time. It was a very big school, and every class, I suppose, had at least 30 people in it. I just remember every classroom was packed in it. And the thing that I remember most about it is that in the winter, people wore Wellings. You know, Wellington boots. We never called them Wellington boots, but we always called them Russian boots for some reason. They were just called Russian boots, maybe after Russian soldiers. But we never called them Wellies. We called them Russian boots. And nobody had socks. I remember that nobody had socks. So on the day, if it was during the winter, you go in there. Of course, everybody went into the yard and played football for 20 minutes before and there was the smell of feet everywhere. Smell of no sock. Exactly, cat on them. And in the summer, people would they wouldn't wear the wellies. They'd wear sandals, but no socks. I wasn't of an age. There are older people here who remember people going to school, I think, with no shoes. But it's a fact that I remember people, certainly a lot of people going to school with no socks. Hankies, handkerchiefs, tissues. There was no such thing as tissues. Tissues were a latter invention. And there was no such thing as tissues. And handkerchiefs were things that well-off people had. So when I was in first or second standard, all you could see was people like that. And at the end of the day, you could see fellas, and it'd be a big, shiny, snotty mark there, like that. Because a lot of people had, I suppose, had cold, but that's what you could see anyway. But I do remember in Mount Sion when I went into the primary school, into the communion when I was 7, first Holy Communion, into first, I think it was first standard. And my first day, stuck with me always. They gave out a big box of letters, wooden letters, and the teacher, the Christian Brothers were all dressed in black. If you're up in John of God, you see sometimes the brothers from De La Salle, they'll be dressed in black and have a white collar on them. And the Christian brother, his name, I think it was Brother Fanny for his sins, said, now he said, I want you to take out of these boxes and make a letter, make a word. Everybody should take letters out of this box and make a word. And I don't want any talking. No talking. No talking. And so I took out 5 letters and I said, H-O-U-S-E. And I said to Paddy Keaton, he said, how's H-O-U-S-E? And he said, it is. And the Christian brother said, I said no talking, so come up here. So at that stage then, you'd have to hold out your hand and you'd have a letter. What was about that length? Pull it out like this, like a sword. And you got 6 clappers with the letter. 3 on that hand and on that hand. And you went down and you wouldn't be able to pick it. So I can tell you for the rest of the communion class, I never uttered a word when Brother Fanny was there. Never, ever, ever, because retribution, as they say, was swift. Anyway, but it was great. I found it great in school in Mount Sion because, as I said, I had 3 older members of the family, and Brian, the youngest, was 7 years older than me. So when I was 7, he was 14 in secondary. So it's anybody that has brothers and sisters knows that it's great when you go to school if there's somebody, you have a certain amount of protection because somebody older than you is in classes ahead of you. So I always found that, let me see where I was. The communion, if I had known you were coming, I would have brought some photographs, but the regulation outfit at that time was there was no such thing as jeans or anything like that, or any flashy clothes, or it was all, everybody wore kind of, even small boys wore suits, or you looked like a small man essentially. So my communion suit, I remember, was made from a suit that was sent home from my Uncle Billy in New York, and it was cut down, a big suit was cut down to make me a small suit so that I could look like that. And everybody wore, when you made your communion, you wore a blue sash, a sash across here like this, so that you were, this was a real thing, a real big sash. And I just remember that, and because we had such, my mother and father had so many brothers and sisters, when I remember the communion day anyway as a big highlight in my life, because you were brought around to all your uncles and aunts, and I made a fortune at that time, about 2 and 6 I'd say in today's money. But it was a real big day because of so many in the family. In 1954, that's a long time ago now, 46, 54 years ago, whatever it is, we moved from Sexton Street to Mount Sion Avenue. Suddenly we were a new house, and it was 3 bedrooms, with proper bathroom, proper running hot and cold water, everything. But I can still remember my dad bringing me down to see the new house, and we went down on the Yellow Road. You know where the Mercy Convent is on the Yellow Road? Yeah. Well, there's a pub there called, I think it's the Toddle Inn, and up through the middle of the Toddle Inn was a little laneway. And I remember my dad bringing me up this laneway and lifting me up and said, that house up there, that new house, that's the one we are getting. So, but the lane was coincidentally called Griffin's Lane. My name is Griffin, but the lane was Griffin's Lane, nothing to do with us. But there were still people living in the lane, and the lane had 6 or 8 little houses on the city. 6 or 8.